can we pause on the congratulations? Why are we congratulating longevity of something if we don't know if that something is respectful, beneficial, healthy, supportive, safe, right? So I don't think we should be like, good for you. Congratulations on this accomplishment if the means that were used to get there were means that were unethical or that left that person depleted, that left their personal relationship suffering or their health suffering. Welcome to Brazen and Bold. I'm your host, Heather Harris. And today I wanted to just do a brief episode talking about the subject, the debatable subject, in my opinion, of what success is, what defines success. And the reason that this question has been rolling around in my mind is because I recently attended this data-driven Salon Today Top 200 event, which was an incredible event intended to acknowledge salon owners from across the country for their accomplishments. What's required in entering this event is to write an essay and to share stats about your salon that would qualify you to win in any number of categories like salon growth, which is what my salon tantrum won in, or culture, technology, innovation, et cetera. So there's a lot of different areas that someone could, receive an award and be acknowledged as one of the top 200 salons in the US. It's a huge honor. And as I was at that event, I met so many incredible owners and their teams who were attending and there to receive their awards. And in that space of time, there were a couple of different conversations about success and multiple times people saying, well, they're a really successful salon owner or she's really successful. With that conversation that comes up, I find that word's a little bit obtuse, quite frankly. And I've had people make certain assumptions about, oh, well, you've got to be really successful because I show up a certain way, or because I have received this award, or I've owned this salon for 5 years, and so forth. And I think it's a little bit elusive, and it's hard to really know what we're aiming for when we're looking for success unless we slow down to really define what we think success is. And in one of the conversations I was having, this they're successful, their salon is successful, she's really successful, I want to introduce you to her. I remember just stopping and saying, what do you mean by successful? And I have long been fascinated by words. I'll be heard saying many times, words mean things. And I want to know what that word means. I want to know what is meant by that word when it is being said. And that can vary wildly from person to person. And I think it's really important as business owners, entrepreneurs, frankly, as any human being existing on this earth, to slow down for just a minute and consider, what does success mean to me? Now, not in some kind of cheesy 10th grade writing prompt, but really, how long has it been since you have slowed down to consider what success means to you? And what is that fence for which you are swinging, right? I'm not here to tell you that my definition of success is superior or that your definition of success should look a certain way. More so, I'm wanting you to slow down. I want to encourage you to consider, what does it mean to you? And where did you get this definition of success? And what is it that's driving you toward your goals? All right, so if we haven't sat down long enough to consider what we're going for, what we're gunning for, and what our goals are, that's something to also think about in this kind of thought prompt. But I realized by being asked by a few people, like, are you successful? Or, talking about this concept, that I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I know people who have accomplished extraordinary things in their careers. Maybe they're highly decorated, they're published, they're awarded, they're honored, they're acknowledged. Maybe they're on big stages speaking. Maybe they are the go-to person in their industry. And I've known people who would be, by most people's definitions, considered wildly successful, but they don't really stand up to my definition. And again, I don't mean any of this as a criticism on someone else's definition, but I believe we have made it so narrow, typically meant to define, do they have a certain level of status and credibility? Is there credibility in their industry up here? Are people looking to them as a leader and someone who knows what's going on? And also, probably most frequently that is this a person who makes a certain amount of money or who, forget about what they even make, appears to be making a certain amount of money? And I think that's something to really think about. I had my former partner was involved in high net worth wealth management. People who were coming with portfolios of just a mere $10 million, like they were small players in the world of high net worth wealth. And it's kind of a skewed perception, right, of wealth, even to start with. Like, I don't know a lot of people who'd be like, oh, no, thanks. I don't need that 10 million. I'll pass. But I realized in associating with so many people who had accomplished so much in their professions and financially, there was a tremendous deficit of whether it was ethics or even some of these people who had a portfolio or a net worth that was astonishing for most of us. We'd be, like I said, really thrilled to touch that amount of money and have it in our bank account. That they were still working around the clock. They were owned by their cell phone and the data that was coming into them and making sure that they were always keeping a pulse on their portfolio or their business, or always kind of obsessed with amassing what was next and what came at the next level. And another thing that makes me think about success is when people are congratulated for the longevity of something, like, oh, you've done that for 20 years, or you've owned this business for 50 years, or oh my gosh, even marriage or a relationship, you've endured, you've been together this long, congratulations. And I'm always like, can we pause on the congratulations? Not to be a jaded naysayer, but why are we congratulating longevity of something if we don't know if that something is respectful, beneficial, healthy, supportive, safe, right? So I don't think we should be like, good for you. Congratulations on this accomplishment if the means that were used to get there were means that were unethical or that left that person depleted, that left their personal relationship suffering or their health suffering. One of my favorite aunts, who's an incredible mentor to me, she and I spoke at length over the last few years about business, and she was somebody that I look to as, like I said, a mentor. And she's accomplished a lot in her profession. She is very well respected in what she does, and um, she takes great pride in what she does, and she's the top of her field. And I remember talking about it one time, and she said, my health has suffered tremendously as a result of what I pushed to accomplish professionally. And this is something that has compounded and caught up to her as she has aged. She's still young and wonderful and has a lot of life ahead of her. But I remember talking really openly about the cost of her success. And I was a newer salon owner working my fingers to the bone, sometimes 80 hours a week behind the chair, then leading my team and trying to get things done and realizing I don't really want to be that burned out. I don't want to let my physical health suffer. And she said something that was quite a compliment. She said, I don't see you as somebody who's willing to sacrifice your physical well-being or your relational well-being, the way you show up with your family or your friends, that you're willing to sacrifice that to accomplish whatever the highest achieving rank is in your field or a certain dollar amount. And at the time I didn't feel that I had a chance as a startup, as a new business owner. I didn't think there was, and there might not have been an option but to work sometimes those 80 hours a week where I was tied to this. This was always like I'm checking it, making sure that I'm not missing anything, looking at my phone and checking schedules and emails and text messages as they come through and every fire that I certainly must put out. And I've got to tell you, I was able to accomplish a lot by investing that much time, but it did come at a cost of my sleep, my overall physical well being and mental health. I was in chronic stress and my body was showing signs of it. And though I was still showing up to take care of myself and eating my plant based, high produce diet and going to the gym, um, I wasn't really taking care of my health and the holistic picture of what I think of success to be. I was absolutely nowhere near. And there's phases. That's a cycle. Sometimes we go through the building phase or the sacrifice that we have to go through to get to the place where we can relax. But it did cost me a lot. It certainly did. And in reflecting with my aunt as she was nearing her retirement and talking about what it cost her physically to accomplish what she did professionally and realizing success has a lot. There's a lot of different variables and ways to measure it. And one thing that I think is worth noting, and this was in a recent conversation I had with a colleague, is that my parents, so incredibly hardworking, they are not the definition of financial success, and they weren't for many, many years. And um, looking at that as some sort of failure, I think would be incredibly remiss. They have tremendous success, in my opinion. The success that matters more than anything and surpasses everything is the quality of the relationships they have. They have tremendous ethics. I always tell people, and I mean this sincerely, my mom's better than your mom. I don't actually say that, but my mom is like Mother Teresa and Jesus had a baby and she's their child. Okay. She has a heart of gold, and her devotion to understanding others and showing up for them in a way that is compassionate, that is loving, that is supportive. Legitimately, and I mean this, I've never heard my mom talk bad about another human. She's 70 years old. And that's saying something significant about the caliber of woman she is. She just doesn't do it. And she doesn't tolerate it being done around her either. So that was a pretty cool way to grow up, being brainwashed by someone like her. Um, and her prioritization of understanding the people around her and of devotion to parenting in a way that was effective, or really understanding the dynamics of what would make her marriage work. That was incredibly successful, in my opinion. And the type of leadership that they demonstrated and that my dad showed me as a loving father who was always encouraging, who had great belief in me and my siblings, and also empowered us to make brave decisions, to be bold, to go out on a limb. He wouldn't let me back down from this calling of entrepreneurship. And not only that, but he really empowered me, signing me up for a business masterclass with one of his mentors that probably cost a small fortune for him at the time. And he said, I need to put you through this, and I want to do this for you because I believe in you this much. And his belief in me has driven me to want to be successful beyond his wildest expectations, in every facet, not just in a professional arena, because that kind of belief has instilled so much hope in me. And also the days, weeks, years, okay, maybe years that I've wondered if I had what it took, or if I even knew what the hell I was doing. I didn't have to look any further than calling my dad and saying, I don't know if I can do this, or this week is too hard, or this thing is too big for me. And every time I would leave those conversations knowing that I might not have what it takes, but I have someone who believes in me, who thinks I do, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to show up fully. And I look at that family dynamic and that level of thoughtful care and connection, and I think there is no greater success in this world than the success that they've accomplished. And it's been hard earned, man. It was not easy for the two of them. And I look at that dedication and that devotion, and I think, well, that's tremendous success. And I don't think it has to be so narrow as to say, well, if you really want a good life in this way, you can't expect a powerful life in the other. Hey, business owners. Yes, you. I know you're juggling it all: marketing, admin tasks, websites, podcasts, social media. The list never ends. That's where Spark comes in. We're a virtual assistant company built just for small business owners, because once you're able to delegate, we know you'll be able to dominate. Our clients are seeing up to 30% increase in social media engagement and sales, all by letting us handle the behind the scenes work. Not to mention an incredible boost in flexibility, profit, and time. So scan the QR code right now to schedule a free chat with my team. Let's make you efficient AF and help you focus on what you do best: growing and leading your business. When I was really young, I had a lot of interest. And my mom, I remember her telling me, you got to choose something, because I liked to play the violin and I wanted to dance and I took piano lessons, but I also played soccer. And she's like, you got to choose one thing. You can't do it all. And I remember saying, I mean, I was probably 12 or 13, watch me. Well, it could have been maybe a little bit of part of my own demise, because I did myself in and I tried to do too many things. But the truth is, um, I always felt that there's no reason we can't have a really beautiful, scalable, high profit business and not also have meaningful, deep, connected relationships, time to nurture our soul and our well being. time to look after others and be generous and thoughtful and have a really humble heart and a giving way of being. I have been exposed to so many successful people, some of whom come from nothing and have very little to show for their hard work, and others who are screaming successes financially and professionally. And I have been blessed to associate with so many people who have compassionate, generous hearts, who care for others and who really prioritize showing up honestly with the highest of ethics and generosity in what they do. And to me, the most successful people are the ones who really slow down long enough to know what matters to them, whatever that looks like. And they take the time to create a life that is built around prioritizing those things. And it can look like a billion different things. So I just want to invite you today, after those conversations at that event and after some recent reflection on what success means and what I really hope for my businesses, my teams that I get to lead, the people who trust me as their virtual assistant, delegation guru, and also my children and my friendships. And I realized that over the space of several years, the balance has not always been on, that it has been skewed too much toward one thing that I needed to handle or address, sometimes for years at a time, like building a startup. But as I'm getting into a space where there's a little bit more capacity to think and to reflect, and this huge privilege that I have to be able to maybe feel like the fire isn't, raging in my head, that I can actually stop and see above the smoke. I've had the tremendous blessing of contemplating what it means to be successful and to recenter myself around looking at those priorities differently and showing up differently. And so I just want to invite you in your busy week, in your busy life, to consider the same. Take a little minute to think about what that looks like for you. And it can change. It's not static. And I think this is something I like to reflect on maybe every 6 months or so. Like, what do I want right now? How am I showing up in my life? And in those reflections and in the last few weeks of having a chance to do that personally, there's things that I want to do less of that I've been doing too much of, and there are things that I need to do a lot more of, and that I'm committed to showing up differently. And for me, I have no problem sharing it. Part of that is my morning meditation. I really had a great practice, and it comes and goes, of spending a few minutes every morning. And I was recently gifted a session by a friend of mine. Her name's Angela, and just a chance to kind of meditate in a group with her. And she guided me through a really beautiful meditation, helped me reset, take a moment to honor my nervous system and feel into my body. And I realized I have been running a little too fast and I have not slowed down long enough to give myself that space and nurture that peace. And I think that's been missing. And that is a really great foundation for me to set a healthier day, a more patient approach with my children, three teens that I adore, who drive me crazy. And I also have the chance to think about, how do I really want to show up in my businesses? How do I want to lead my salon team? And how do I want to lead my team at Spark? And how do I want to show up for my friendships that I probably have neglected grossly? So that reflection has been really powerful for me. And that's why I wanted to get on here and invite you to consider the same. And I'd love to hear from you. If there's something that you're focused on or committed to doing more of, or something that you've been doing that you want to slow down and do less of, I would love to hear from you, and how this kind of a practice or exercise might give you a different focus for the next 6 months. So I'm going to spend more time meditating in the mornings, making that a priority to have a slower and more gentle morning. And that's going to look like a little less time at the gym and not taking work calls quite as early. And it's also going to look like curating a little bit of time to slow down and check in with my own brain and body and well being, prioritizing weekly meetings with my incredible, beautiful salon director, Monica, and also taking time to check in with my team and having a little bit more slow, thoughtful, meaningful connections there. I'm trying an experiment. Maybe I'll pop on and tell you how it goes, but I want to live a little slower over the next 6 months. So it's June right now. I'm recording this in June of 2026. So I'll follow up with you. This is my commitment to my audience. I'm going to follow up and let you know around December or end of December the difference it's made, because I think that there is absolute brilliance, and it's a superpower to be able to push hard, to work hard, to run fast, to go for it. And I think right now my life is asking me to take a little bit of a slower pace and to consider, how can I show up and how can powerful look a little more gentle, a little bit more restorative, a little bit more soft, and a little bit more honoring of the holistic, all of me that needs to thrive. And I'm absolutely incorporating in that whole mix a little more reading, downtime in the sunshine, walking my dog, and therapy. So we'll see how the next 6 months unfolds. And I'm just here to remind you that whatever it is you're doing, I'm cheering you on and wishing you the utmost of whatever your definition of success is. Thanks for listening.